In this video, my neighbor took over my piece of land and turned it into a farm while I was not there. He had no permission to do this. Welcome back to Ripe Stories. Let's dive right into the video. This one is from r/legal advice. Some background: 5 years ago, I purchased a beautiful 5-acre plot of land just outside of town. It came with a small 2-bedroom house that needed work, but what really sold me was the land itself. There's a gorgeous creek running through the back portion, and I had planted a small grove of maple trees near the entrance, something I've always dreamed of having. My plan was to eventually tear down the old house and build my dream home there. Due to a job opportunity, I've been living about 6 hours away for the past 3 years, but I drive out to check on the property every 6 to 12 months. I've always been meticulous about documenting everything related to this property: surveys, permits, regular photos of the condition, you name it. Call me paranoid, but I like having records. Enter Torrance, who moved into the neighboring property about 8 months ago. I met them briefly when they first moved in during one of my routine visits. They seem friendly enough, though I heard from other neighbors that they'd already had some disputes about property lines and even noise complaints. Yesterday, I drove out for my regular check and nearly had a heart attack. The entire central portion of my land, we are talking at least 2 acres, had been transformed into a full-blown farm. There were rows of corn, what looked like a vegetable garden, and even a chicken coop, or coop, I always forget how to say that, with actual chickens running around. Someone had even constructed a small storage shed near the back of the property. I immediately pulled out my phone and started documenting everything. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the camera steady. Then I marched over to Torrance's house and knocked on their door. The conversation that followed was surreal. Me: "What is all this on my property?" Torrance, looking completely unfazed: "Oh, you mean the farm? I've been working on that for months now." Me: "That is my land. You had no right to do any of this." Torrance actually laughing: "Ha! Well, you were not using it. It was just sitting there empty. I put in all this work to make it productive. You should be thanking me." "Thanking you? You are trespassing and destroying my property." Torrance: "Look, I've been maintaining this land for months now. I've improved it. That basically gives me the right to use it. Haven't you heard of squatters' rights?" Me: "That is not how any of this works. I want everything removed immediately." Torrance: "Not happening. I invested too much time and money into this farm. If you had a problem with it, you should have said something months ago. Where were you this whole time, huh? You cannot just abandon your property and expect people not to make use of it." I was so angry I had to walk away before I said or did something I would regret. I have documentation of everything here: property surveys, tax records, photos of the land before this happened, and now even photos and videos of the current situation. I even recorded a part of my conversation with Torrance on my phone. What's my best course of action here? And yeah guys, if you would be in this situation, what would you have done? I'm very curious. And by the way, if you hear some super loud airplane noises on the recording today, my dear apologies. Unfortunately, today it is Children's Day in Thailand, and usually for Children's Day they always fly these fighter jets basically right over my house, and it's impossible to not get that on the recording. Anyway, I want every trace of this farm removed from my property and compensation for any damage they have caused. Should I call the police, get a lawyer, both? I'm worried they may try claim some kind of adverse possession rights, since they've been supposedly maintaining the property even though it's only been a few months. Please help me figure out how to handle this legally. I'm trying to stay calm, but I'm absolutely furious about this violation. Comment number 1 said, "Get a lawyer immediately." Like, stop reading this and go call one right now. This is way beyond small claims territory. Your neighbor has committed serious property violations here, and you need professional legal representation. Make sure you keep all your documentation safe and make multiple copies. Comment number 2, Almeo, your neighbor watched one YouTube video about adverse possession and thought that they could speedrun it. That's not how any of this works. You need a lawyer, but this is pretty much a slam dunk case. Comment number 3, police report first and then lawyer. You want an official record of the trespassing and property damage. This kind of entitled behavior is just insane. Comment number 4, former paralegal here. Your meticulous documentation is gonna be your best friend in this case. Adverse possession typically requires several years, it varies by state, of open, notorious and continuous possession plus payment of property taxes. Your neighbor does not have a leg to stand on. Get a real estate attorney who specializes in property disputes. Comment number 5, Dude, just go out there with a bulldozer and plow everything under. It's your property, you can do what you want with it. And yes, Ripe Stars, I 100% agree with that comment. That is proper legal advice. Comment number 6, don't listen to the guy suggesting destruction. That could actually get you in legal trouble. Document everything, file a police report, and get a lawyer. Your neighbor is counting on you either not caring or reacting emotionally and doing something that could hurt your case. Now we got an update to the story that goes like this. So I wanted to give you guys an update on what's happened and ask for some additional guidance because things have gotten even more complicated. Following your suggestions, I immediately contacted a lawyer who specialized in property disputes. They confirmed that I have a solid case here and helped me file for an emergency injunction to prevent Torrance from making any additional changes to the property while we pursue legal action. However, when the sheriff's deputy arrived to serve the papers, we discovered that Torrance had doubled down. Not only had he refused to remove anything, but they had actually expanded the operation. So they had added more chickens, started construction on what looks like a greenhouse foundation, and put up no trespassing signs on my own property. The deputy documented everything and filed a report, but said that this was a civil matter and they could not forcibly remove Torrance or their belongings. My lawyer says that this is actually good for our case because it shows willful and continued violation after being formally notified. But here is where it gets even crazier. Torrance has now filed a countersuit claiming unjust enrichment because they have supposedly improved my property. They are actually trying to argue that I owe them money for their unauthorized modifications to my own land. They have also started rallying some Facebook farming groups to their cause, painting me as some evil landowner trying to destroy a sustainable community garden project. My lawyer is actually confident about our case but says that we might not get a court date for several weeks. Meanwhile though, Torrance is out there every day continuing to use my property like they own it. They've even started selling produce and eggs from their farm at the local farmers market. I'm worried about what other improvements they might make before this thing gets resolved. My lawyer advised against confronting them directly again, but it is just infuriating to watch them brazenly trespassing every day. Additional questions here. Can I install security cameras on my property to monitor their activities? Number 2. Should I be concerned about their social media campaign affecting the legal proceedings? If they are profiting from produce grown on my own land, can I claim those earnings? Comment number 1, not a lawyer, but yes, absolutely install security cameras. Make sure they are properly positioned to only record your property and document everything they do. Comment number 2, property lawyer here. Their countersuit is laughable and will likely be thrown out. No judge is gonna look kindly on someone who knowingly trespassed, was served notice, and continued to expand their illegal activities. Keep documenting everything. Their social media campaign won't affect the legal proceedings, but could potentially open them up to defamation charges. Comment number 3, the audacity of these people is incredible. Your lawyer is right though. Don't engage with them directly. Let them dig their hole even deeper. Comment number 4, you should totally sue them for the profits from their farmers market sales. They are literally stealing from you twice, using your land and then making money from it. Comment number 5, dude, just wait until winter when all their crops die and then bulldoze everything. What are they gonna do? Admit that they were growing stuff on your land? Comment number 6, to answer your questions, yes to cameras, but consult your lawyer about proper placement. Also, save all their social media posts. They are just giving you even more evidence. Number 3, absolutely include their market profits in your damages claim. Final update to the story. It's been a wild few months, but I'm happy to report that this situation has finally been resolved in my favor. Here's how everything played out. First, the security cameras turned out to be crucial. They caught Torrance attempting to install permanent irrigation lines on my property after being served with the emergency injunction. My lawyer immediately filed a motion for contempt of court, which really got the ball rolling. The judge was not impressed with Torrance's behavior. Their countersuit was dismissed with prejudice, and during the main hearing, the judge actually interrupted Torrance's testimony about squatters' rights to point out that they had documented their own illegal activities on social media, complete with time-stamped photos showing that they knew it was not their property. Well, the final ruling came down yesterday. Number 1, Torrance has 14 days to remove all structures, equipment and agricultural installations from my property. Number 2, they must restore any altered land to its original condition as documented in my photos. And they also must pay damages including cost of land restoration, legal fees, lost property use, profits from produce sold at farmers market, and punitive damages for continuing violations after being served. The total judgment came to just over $48,000. My lawyer says collection might be challenging, but we can put a lien on their property if necessary. The best part though? During the proceedings, we discovered that Torrance had pulled similar stunts in 2 other counties, thinking they could claim adverse possession by establishing multiple small farms on vacant land. The judge has referred their case to the district attorney for possible criminal charges there. I've already contracted a professional service to remove everything and restore the land once the 14-day period expires. I'm also installing proper fencing and a security system to prevent any future farming attempts. Torrance has gone surprisingly quiet since the ruling, though their Facebook farming group is still posting angry rants about big landowners crushing small farmers. Several people have reached out to apologize for believing their story without hearing my side. Thank you all for the advice and support throughout this ordeal. Special thanks to those who warned me against taking matters into my own hands. You probably saved me from making this situation much worse. Time to start planning that dream house I've been wanting to build. Final update. First, my property is completely restored now and looks better than ever. The professional restoration company did an amazing job. You would never know that there was ever an illegal farm there. I've started the permit process for my dream house and construction should begin in spring. As for Torrance, well, karma finally caught up with them in a big way. Remember how the judge referred their case to the DA? So last month, Torrance pleaded guilty to multiple counts of criminal trespassing, vandalism, and fraud. They are looking at 18 months in prison plus hefty fines. He's also been ordered to pay restitution to all affected property owners, including me. Their property is being sold to cover the judgments against them. The funniest part though, that Facebook farming group that was so supportive of Torrance, they've completely disowned them now that the truth came out. They even invited me to speak at their monthly meeting about property rights and legal urban farming. I declined, but it was satisfying to see them acknowledge how wrong they were. Several of my other neighbors have apologized for not warning me sooner about Torrance's behavior. Apparently they had witnessed some suspicious activity but didn't want to get involved. They've all become much more vigilant now, and we have started a neighborhood watch program. Also, I did end up collecting most of the judgment money through the sale of Torrance's property. My lawyer says this is unusually lucky because most judgments are much harder to collect. Either way though, I'm using part of it to install an advanced security system on my future house, but the rest is going into a fund to help legitimate small farmers lease land legally. Sort of a living well is the best revenge type of situation. And yeah guys, if you still enjoy the farm related stories, then please post some star emojis in the comments. Thank you so much, and the next one is a malicious compliance story you won't wanna miss. I work remotely for a small company of around 100 employees, and based on my contract I have to return to the office for a week 4 times a year. The last time I went back up was in November. In the contract it is laid out that my employer pays 100% of hotel and gas/air fare. Normally, this is an extremely uneventful routine. It is a mid-sized Midwestern city with not much to do. It is what it is. A few months before I went back up, we had our financial audit, and one thing that was pointed out to our accounting department was a lack of controls on purchasing. The way it used to be was that every manager/supervisor had a company credit card with a $1,500 balance, and as long as we stayed under that limit, we did not have to do any kind of purchase orders. After our audit, my accounting team decided to make purchase orders 100% of their focus. Going forward, it does not matter what it was, what the situation was, if you did not have an approved purchase order, you could not make the transaction. All this happened in early October as I was trying to book my hotel for my on-site week in November. Normally I have freedom in choosing when I go on site, but I was requested to go that specific week by my CEO and CFO as we were launching some strategic planning and they wanted me on site. So I put the purchase order in for the hotel and I don't hear anything back. I forget about it for a couple of weeks and then remember mid-October that I still don't have a hotel room booked. So when I initially made the request, it was about $550 for 4 nights. Looking again in mid-October, it was now up to $700 for 4 nights. I look around and notice that same week that I'm supposed to go up, there's a concert in the same city, followed by a big college sporting event in that town. I sent an email to my accounting folks that I need to book a hotel because rates are going up, room availability is going down, yada yada. I get a tersely worded email back saying that everyone has different priorities and my purchase order will be addressed once all the ones before it are done. So I just sit back and wait and keep checking every other day and keep seeing prices go up. I sent a weekly email asking if it's approved yet and I keep getting absolute silence back. Finally, a week before I email my accounting team with the CFO included saying if I don't book a room that day there wouldn't be any left and I wouldn't be able to make it up for the strategic planning work. Well, about 30 minutes later, I get back an email that says word for word, "You're authorized to reserve a hotel room for 4 nights. Cool, I book it. That $550 room is now $1,200, so I book it and move on with my life and don't think any of it. Last week, I got around to uploading my credit card receipts and submitted my expense report, which included that $1,200 hotel stay. I got a call from my CFO today, just exploding on me, furious about where the hell did I stay that cost that much and what was I thinking. I very calmly just forwarded the original purchase order and all the emails I sent saying that prices were raising. I had dead silence on the phone as he read through the email chains and just said, "For Christ's sake," and then hung up. At the end of the day, all supervisors got an email that the purchase order system was being shut down until they could figure out how to manage it better. And the next one is a quickie. It is titled Revenge on Mother-in-Law. It is no secret that mother-in-law does not like myself, female 38, or my spouse. Her stepson, male 36, and for all intents and purposes we ignore her antics, and don't engage. She actively tries to keep her biological family away from us, as she hates reminders of FIL's martial history, but will go out of her way to try and play the long-suffering MIL. She lets FIL try to invite us to family gatherings in public for appearances, but then cancels plans in private days later. We seldom meet other than the annual company holding party, since father-in-law and spouse work for the same company. Here is where the meat of the story comes in though. The company party is always a huge event with upscale food, an open bar, live entertainment and a DJ with a dance floor. Everyone dresses up and shows out with the higher-ups and all that jazz. Everyone is drinking and having a good time, everyone but my mother-in-law and her belligerently hammered firstborn and his new girlfriend. New girlfriend is nice, but both seem dead set on keeping her away from us and actively trying to start fights with passive-aggressive comments. We don't react, we just keep laughing and partying it up since we know everyone there and they don't. It starts to seem like a non-issue, with them seemingly leaving us alone until FIL approaches us, drunk and bursting with glee, as he asks us to please join him and his family for New Year's before he leaves for the night. While we gladly accept, I instantly knew what to say when I saw her marching up pretending to be the doting MIL and telling us how she hopes that we all get together really soon. All while hugging me tightly. I just wrapped my arms around that sour-faced woman, pulled her in tight and whispered in her ear, "We already got the invite for New Year's, so your wish is granted. We'll see you then," and planted a loud kiss on her cheek. She then hauls backwards, looking absolutely horrified, and ran out of there like a bat out of hell. Spouse is staring at me while I'm just grinning like a Cheshire cat, and he just laughs when I tell him what I did. Sure enough though, 3 days later my FIL is calling us apologizing for having to cancel because there was a family emergency they needed to leave town for. FIL had forgotten that years ago father-in-law shared locations with us and never shut it off. They were home the entire night. I genuinely don't think we've ever laughed as hard either. Since then, we've also begun to use their same excuse of family emergency to politely turn them down. And before we end the video, I will read one last petty revenge story that is titled, "I did not do anything to your car." So years ago, I took my wife to a fabric store, waited outside in my car. This lady pulls up to me, throws open her door, and it hits my car. She did not look at me, so I got out of my car and said, "Excuse me, you just hit my car with your door." "No, I didn't." I was sitting in the car and I heard and felt that you hit my car." The lady says, "No, I didn't." I realized she was not gonna admit it and there was only a small mark on the door, so I watched her go inside the store. It's an older car and had some other dings. I just wanted her to say sorry. I'm a Canadian, so we say it all the time. It's not hard to do. My wife was still inside the store when she came out, absolutely glaring at me. I rolled down the window and said, "I didn't do anything to your car." "What?" I said I didn't do anything to your car. She spent the next 20 minutes looking over her vehicle, pausing to glare at me. I egged her on every 5 or so minutes by repeating, I didn't do anything to your car, it's fine, nothing at all. She finally peeled out of the spot in a huff, and my wife came out wondering why I was in such a good mood after I spent a good hour in the car. I told her I found something to pass the time. And yeah guys, I just decided we will do one last story. It is titled, I paused my movie because they were watching it. Also from r/petty revenge. So I, female, 27, have roommates and one of them is a thief. They are being kicked out, but that takes time. In the meantime, I'm still living in my home as I should. So just now, I was sitting on the couch watching a Netflix movie when the thief went to the kitchen to cook. It's especially tense since I caught them stealing again yesterday, and that is when I gave them notice that they need to move out. And as I'm sitting there watching this movie, I noticed that they had stopped what they were doing for an extended period of time. This dude was standing there watching the movie I had on as if this is hangout time. Like, get done what you need to and go the F back to your space. Your thieving presence is clearly not welcome anymore, and this was never meant to be a shared hangout area in the first place. So either way, I paused the movie and they suddenly went back to cooking. They couldn't have been more obvious, so after that I had it paused until they went back to their part of the house. My petty ass sat here in silence for 15 minutes until they left. Bonus, yesterday I told them that they have until tomorrow at a certain time to get their food out of my pantry. After that, I'm installing a coded gate lock on it. I also made a point of aiming a security camera explicitly at the pantry. They knew that they were being recorded before, which makes them stealing even more wild. But I want them to really feel it now. Gonna act like a criminal and steal from me? I'm gonna treat you like one. And yeah guys, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and I will see you again tomorrow.